Okay, guys, we should be live here. Just waiting for Mark to join. We're going to be discussing some NEO stuff with Mark Jeffrey from Guardium, and he's built his ICO and his platform on NEO. And I'm going to ask him some questions, and we're going to learn about what he's doing. And also, we might have some beefs here. We might have some people who have some questions. Hey, you here, Mark?
I am here.
Okay, so you might need to put in some headphones if possible. There's a little bit of feedback.
Okay, give me a sec. I can do that.
Cool. Maybe you could mute for a second while So I want to intro this just a little bit because I've been looking at NEO. Hold on, let's wait a second so we can make sure that there's not too much feedback. Hey, Jared. Hey, Zach. All right, so all beef, no vegetarian. All right, cool. If you guys have any questions, but like really what I want to discuss is kind of like there's sort of this kind of fun argument that we have. I'm just reading some of my notes here between Fred and Mark and just a lot of people and just with EOS and NEO. And I wanted to ask Mark some questions about, why he chose NEO, kind of what that process looks like. And there's a lot of questions about NEO, like why did the devs go? And I don't want to paint this like negative. I don't want to paint a very negative picture of NEO. And I want to remind people that I'm very supportive of all these chains because I think all the chains are great and they're pushing the industry forward. And Mark, just let me know when you're able to join back if you can. There was a lot of feedback, and this is
I'm here.
Something great. Okay, there's no feedback too, so it's awesome. So Mark, if you could just introduce yourself. I know a lot of people here tuning in and watching you, but there's a lot of people that watch a video. So if you could just kind of give yourself a little intro.
Yeah, so my name is Mark Jeffrey. I'm the CEO and co-founder of a thing called Guardian Circle. We have a token called Guardium. The symbol is GUARD, and it is a NEO NEP5 token.
Okay, cool. And so you chose NEO, and what like can you step back a little bit and tell us like what your decision-making process was and how that went and your feelings and the challenges you faced, like just with choosing a blockchain?
Yeah. So we got on the token sale path in October of last year, so right around now, almost exactly a year ago. And at the time, we were contemplating. We didn't like Ethereum. Our feeling was Ethereum would never scale. I still kind of feel that way. And so we heard about EOS. We knew a lot of the folks on the EOS side of the fence. Love those people, but we didn't really know whether it was going to launch on time or not. And so we had contemplated doing a private blockchain for a lot of different reasons. Some of them, Guardian Circle is an emergency citizen-based 911 thing. So, and we had contemplated some things which relied a little bit more on the blockchain during the emergency, and Ethereum was just too risky. So we thought maybe a private blockchain was the way to go. And by the time February rolled around, we had to make a decision. So that was the decision point. I talked to a lot of people and got a lot of advice from a lot of different sides. And we ended up thinking we didn't want to do Ethereum. EOS was too much of a risk at that point because it didn't exist. We didn't know whether it would exist in time or not.
You're right.
We had thought that we were going to be delivering. Yeah. And so we had to deliver tokens in May. The soonest EOS was going to be available was in June. So I just looked at that and said, that's out. You can't do that. NEO was the only other blockchain that appeared to be very scalable and had been up for about 2 years, partially as ant shares. And it had a very rich set of tools around it and a pretty big community worldwide of developers. And they had compilers for multiple languages, so you didn't have to use something like Solidity. You could use C++, pretty much any language you wanted. And so we sort of looked at that and went, this looks like the best thing to go with for now. And we didn't know whether we would change our minds later, but at the time, it was absolutely the right choice. So that's how we ended up here.
Okay. So where are you guys at in the process now? Like, how do you feel about the decision, and have you considered changing, or is it like you're Pro, Neo, what would you choose today, as David Adams just asked here? And I like
Yes.
to hop in and answer people's questions here and there. If you see anything that's interesting, feel free.
Okay. So yeah. So So Guardian Circles, I said, is an emergency thing. Think
Hmm.
it's. I'm not going to get. I don't want to pitch what we're doing too much,
I don't
but you
mind
have
at
to
all.
understand
I
it's
think
a
people are
911.
excited. Yeah. Yeah.
Okay. So basically, the way it works is you download an app. You ask your friends, family, and neighbors to also download it. You connect with them in the app as guardians. When you're in trouble,
Hmm.
you hit an alert button. This sends an alert out to your guardians, as well as people nearby who have opted into receiving alerts from strangers. So public
Uh,
responders, and you have to opt into sending your alert to strangers. All of these people, when you have an emergency, they are assembled in a map which shows where everybody is in a chat room. So in under 30 seconds, everybody knows where
mhm.
everybody else is. Everybody can talk to everybody. So now they can come up with a plan to help you fast. And this is the important part, whether they knew each other beforehand or not. So that's kind of the landscape of what it is. It's an open 911 grid on mobile devices. Um,
Yep.
the people who are going to use it and rely upon it the most are, in some cases, senior citizens, so the I've fallen and can't get up crowd, people in the
Hmm.
developing world, not the crypto people, not you and me, not Fred, not like, the people that are using bet dice. It's not them who are the
For
primary
sure.
people
For
that this is
sure.
aimed at,
Yeah.
right? And
Hmm.
on top of that, we have part of our business is we have an open API that lets any device manufacturer plug their alert device into our grid. So all the like
Hmm.
little iPhone and can't get up things that people wear around their necks, or Apple watches, or your in-car OnStar service, so it detects a crash, that can send out the alerts. There's a lot of things that can create alerts, and that is sort of half of our business.
Great.
Those people are relying
Okay.
on Guardian Circle app by itself. They don't want to also require. So backing up, if I were to say to those people, both the manufacturers of the devices and the grandma type people and the
Hmm.
people in the developing world, download Guardian Circle. And oh, by the way, in order for this to be useful, you have to download this exterior wallet app. Like I just think about that, and
Hmm.
I just go, I'm never, getting them to download this was miraculous enough. Getting them to download two apps, this weird crypto wallet thing that they don't understand, it's too.
Hey,
So I
what's
have
up,
to create an
Jonathan?
experience
I just
where
say hi to
everything
people randomly. Sorry. Sorry there, Mark.
in one app
Yeah.
only that they download.
Great. Okay, cool. So I want to like kind of jump back up a little bit just towards Neo. So I did some research and I wanted to like dig up some issues because I know that this is probably annoying for you, is my guess, is that if you kind of say Neo, then people have their one key argument about, and the one that I
Yeah.
hear a lot, like Timothy Lewis, for example, I've heard him bring up several times about the developers. And I didn't know a lot. I was actually like being a person who lived in China before, when I heard Chinese Ethereum, I was really excited and I thought that's cool. And I even felt like, fuck, I'm in too late or something, right? But it doesn't really matter. I don't care about the prices too much. But I kind of like did a little bit of research and I haven't confirmed any of these things, but I wanted to just show some of the things. And if there's any of these things that stand out to you as either being false or something that you think is just unsubstantiated and you have no concern at all, then feel free to jump in on any of the points. But I kind of have this list here and I wanted to read it off. These are some things that seemed a concern for me. So one thing I looked into is that the TPS seems really low when it's benchmarked. There were a lot of outages during the ICOs where, some of the transactions were taking a long time, like, half a minute or something. I saw that their Stack exchange
Mhm.
got shut down because there wasn't enough developer interest. Um, uh, a code auditor went in, Andre Cronje. I don't know how to say his name, and maybe this is bullshit. I'm like I'm saying, I haven't substantiated these in any way. I just wanted to find these arguments and see, are they myth, fact, whatever. Like, so there's like MythBusters for Neo or something, right? So Andre
Yeah.
Cronje said that he looked at Neo's code base and realized that there aren't any substantial commits since June of 2017, and some people speculate that that's because Neo 3 is not publicly available code base. You cannot vote for validator nodes after 2 years, I've heard, which may not be true. Um, there are a lot of kind of controversial things around ant shares that we'll get into later. False claims about Microsoft partnerships. They've done 3 ICOs and rebranded and changed names and parlayed a lot of that money into on-chain. The first one was Ant Shares. The second one parlayed into on-chain, which is kind of sold as an ICO on NEO, but it's really just the same founders. Loopring has been very controversial. Smart contract deployment looked like it was about 15,000 USD at one point in their gas. Products on NEO seem pretty sparse, and I know that there's a lot of them. Every time I look into these products, I'm seeing that the roadmap is really far away. 7 nodes I've counted, and I don't know if that's the right number, but just from my reading, which seems, I mean, EOS is 21. I mean, it's not like it's that big of a deal. The Chinese connection seems a little bit shady to me as a person who lived in China, and feels like if you're kind of really associated with the Chinese government, that seems a little bit weird. I've seen some news stories that are good news from the past 3 months. I did a Google search, and some of them I could see were pretty poorly translated from Chinese PR companies into English, which seemed a little fishy. Their ARKit, recent ARKit announcement seemed like it was something to prevent quantum computing attacks, which seems a little sci-fi to me. And I don't know if that's like actually a thing, but I'm very interested what you might think about that. They're doing a lot of updates, which is C NEO and C gas and a couple of other things. And these are some things that just stood out to me as concerns, including this one about developers who have kind of left the project. And if there's any of these things that stand out to you as like BS, like just tell us straight up, because I don't want to hear, everybody's drinking the EOS Kool-Aid, and I don't want to be another one of those people. So
can I, so I have a lot to say. But I'll start off by saying that I question our decision to go NEO daily. And I recently flew to the Black Sea in Tbilisi, Georgia, where there was a NEO gathering of about 30% of all the NEO DApp CEOs and the senior management of NEO. And able to, ask them any question, look them in the eye, and talk to them about a lot of these issues. And some of these things I've figured out the answer to, some of them I don't know. The ones I know the answer to are, I'm just trying to remember everything you said, but I'll start at the top. NEO has indeed had some issues with its transaction speed, and also with Byzantine fault tolerance. It uses the same mechanism as EOS, DPoS, so proof of stake. Delegated proof of stake, It's the same thing in that sense. It is very highly centralized. There are not very many nodes. I think there's actually about 30 nodes. I don't think it's more than 7.
Okay.
Most of them are controlled by NEO directly. When EOS launched, they started giving away nodes for the very first time. That had never happened before. So they're definitely spooked by EOS in a good way. It's forcing them to iterate in key ways that they naturally weren't doing. There's pluses and minuses to that. Because it's so centralized, they can fix things and upgrade things a lot more easily than other blockchains that have to sort of convince everyone to do things. So it's nice. It's a two-edged blade, bottom line.
Okay, great.
When I talked to Johnson,
go ahead.
Sorry, just one last thing. So the big question is, and the big accusation is, hey, all the good developers have left. They're now working, and I know what he's talking about. There's another project called Ontology, which the CEO of NEO just left to go head up. Ontology is NEO just for enterprises, so it's private. It's sort of the NEO version of Consensus, where they're building things for enterprise and for contract work, but it's still based on the NEO code base. The NEO engineers largely are still the same. Eric Zhang is still the guy at NEO who's still in charge. And the other big thing that's happened is they have opened up core code development work to City of Zion and others. That's new, and that's not very widely known right now. But I actually talked to several people from City of Zion today, and they confirmed that, in fact, that is happening. So, all blockchains have their problems. All blockchains have their FUD. We all have seen what they've been saying about EOS recently, right? Yep. So, and that absolutely strikes me as FUD. So, NEO, there's good and pluses and minuses with it, but by and large, it's good. Just like with EOS, by and large, it's good as far as I can tell. So, it's kind of where we're at.
Yeah, for sure. And I think that just because I've been drinking the EOS Kool-Aid and I heard a lot of criticisms that, I'm a big believer in understanding is seeing things from multiple angles and really feeling what is really behind the scenes going on. Like, for example, people were, saying that Dan Larimer is a flake and that he bounces off of projects. And so I looked into it to really try to figure out, like, what was the story behind that? Like, why would he leave these other projects and then like ruin his reputation? And so, he had a really great answer that worked for me. And maybe I'm drinking too much Kool-Aid, but he was like, look, I build decentralized applications. If decentralized applications rely on me to be successful, then I didn't really build a decentralized application. And so I think that this is a really great argument. And so, and then, okay, so there's some other questions that are coming in. Fred is asking about NEO gas versus staking and just the staking mechanisms and voting. And I did make one point. I was reading some articles from the last 3 months that said that the voting for validator nodes and voting on NEO is pretty busted. But let's talk about that. Let's talk about staking and gas and all this kind of stuff.
So in the EOS universe, you're all used to staking EOS to get system resources. It's a very raw kind of environment where you're staking EOS for CPU, for bandwidth, for memory, right? For RAM. Well, you're buying RAM, but essentially it's another form of staking. So you're talking directly to the metal and the wires. And you need to have a little bit of stake for each new user that comes on board. So every time someone downloads a Fred wallet, Fred has to cough up a little EOS to stake the new account. So it costs money. In the NEO universe, accounts are free, transactions are free. However, to create a contract, to create a coin, so us, when we create a Guardium, it costs, I think it's 1,000 gas, which you said earlier, that contract costs as much as $50,000 at one point. That's true.
15 is the number that I got. So
it's been as high as 40,000. I know that, so I figured 50,000 probably not that far.
Okay.
So I know that for a fact. We paid like 25,000 or 30,000, something like that, in gas at the time we created our contract. Because remember, NEO, you might not know this, NEO was as high as about $170 per coin. So and the gas was way up there as well. So it's a fraction of that now. So you can easily, NEO is now worth about $15 a coin, something like that. So, and the gas is commensurately sort of a tenth of what it was as well. So it's a lot cheaper to create contracts now. The other effect of that is it tends to keep out the chum. So, Ethereum projects have all kinds of crazy, nonsense stuff. And it feels like the Android app store, if you will, and just garbage everywhere. Whereas NEO, the projects tend to be more thoughtful and more considered and fewer. So there's like, I don't know, I'm going to say something like 60 projects. You can see them all at NDAP. So NDAP.
Yeah, so I reviewed NDAP, and my honest opinion there is that I dug into about 10 applications there, and I may have just gotten lucky or something, but some of them had roadmaps that were in 2019, which I get it, it's coming up soon. It just seems a little slow moving to me, like where you have EOS, and I don't even honestly believe that they need to be compared. I just think it's a fun topic. Yeah. But EOS has so many just like crazy apps, and yeah, it's gambling, whatever. There's a lot of arguments against it. It's not all transformative, like huge, transformative ideas. I mean, there are some, but like the traction is really coming from what do they call it? The 3 Gs, right? I think this is what Fred was telling me the other night: girls, gambling, and whatever the fuck else. I don't know. But when I looked into these, they seemed like, a few were still raising, and maybe they were having trouble raising, and the apps weren't live, and they had a raise before their MVP, which to me says that they're trying to raise money to build their MVP, stuff like this. And so that was a little bit like worrisome for me. And like, there is one really like good point here though, is that when I looked at the developer documentation, I was actually pretty impressed with their development documentation. Really, I haven't used their tools, but it looks really cool, and it looks like they spent time, which leads me to another, I guess, question is like, what is going on with the developers? Like, where are they? Where is the action? Where are people slanging code for NEO on NEO? Like, where is that happening?
Yeah, the biggest activity right now is the Neon wallet. So
Okay.
that's been in development for, there's been about 30 developers around the world working on that for the last year. It just
Okay.
released 2 days ago, maybe, or maybe even a
Okay.
day ago. Maybe it was yesterday. So really recently. It's a huge update. It looks a
Hmm.
lot slicker, a lot nicer. They've learned a lot. It
Hmm.
operates very smoothly. There's options in there to if you use a little bit of gas, transactions are free, but if you use a little bit of gas, they are as fast as EOS. They're lightning fast. And I just learned that bit today. I didn't realize they were that fast if you use a
Okay,
little
great.
gas.
So the Neon wallet, like, are you using this pretty regularly, and what are you using it for?
Yeah. So well, we use the Neon wallet for Guardium. So
Okay.
most of the Guardium stuff we do is in Neon at the moment.
And do you
There,
recommend for the Guardium holders to use the Neon wallet and
yes, I do right
transact?
now.
Okay, cool.
Yes, there are other wallets that are good too. So just so let me give you the landscape. So there's the
Okay.
Neon wallet, which is made by City of Zion. There's a thing
Hmm.
called Nex, NEX, which is a major decentralized exchange that's been in the works for
Hmm.
about a year and a half. Some of the same people that did Neon Wallet behind it, but there's other people that have nothing to do with that. That will launch in
Okay.
January, and that everyone has very high expectations for that. They claim it is Coinbase simple. It will have fiat on and off ramps. They've gone to great lengths to be compliant and legal. So we'll
Okay.
see. But the Neon wallet that came out yesterday was pretty good. So I have high hopes for it. And I've met some of these people now, so I sort of looked them in the eye, and uh, they feel legit.
Cool.
There's
And
a
so
few
would
other
you
efforts.
say
There's a
that
thing called
that, go ahead.
yeah. I just wanted to complete the landscape
Yeah,
real
yeah,
quick. So
sure.
there's a thing called a Felion, which is also a
Hmm.
downloadable wallet and decentralized exchange. That's up and running right now. There's one
Okay.
called O3 that's a mobile wallet for iOS and Android. It is plugged into a
Okay.
decentralized exchange called Switcheo, which is also up and running. Guardium is up on Switcheo right now.
Okay.
And then there's a new entrant called Spotcoin, which just had a $14 million ICO that they just closed a week ago. They will have a decentralized exchange running in December that will have fiat on and off ramps for all NEP5 tokens, in addition to just sort of the regular decentralized exchange stuff.
Okay.
So so there's a lot of activity. And the thing that's funny to me and sort of weird is there's these two groups of really great people that don't know about each other and aren't talking to each other, and I'm hearing both of them, one in each ear. So that's what it feels like to me. It's
Hmm.
a little strange. There's not a
Yeah,
lot of
like
crossover
what,
between them.
maybe talk a little bit more about these groups, like who they are and why do you think there's a disparity there?
Um, well, I mean, the other sort of big feature is, as you mentioned, the developer documents are very rich, and unlike a lot of other
Hmm.
blockchains, probably even EOS.
They
Part of
look
the
pretty
reason
good. Yeah.
they are very good, and that's one of the
Hmm.
reasons why we're there, because we can build the experience we want on Neo. We
Hmm.
can't do it on any other blockchain right now. Um,
Hmm.
the Neo blockchain is a virtual machine. So just like you write to Java, you
Hmm.
write to the virtual machine, which is very
Robert,
unlike
what's
EOS,
up?
where you're talking to like sort of a raw machine metal, the raw metal of the machine. It's
Yep.
one layer up. You're talking to using a programming language. So and there are compilers
Okay.
for pretty much anything you can imagine. So it has a very developer centric crowd around it. So right, and a very
Yeah.
worldwide crowd. So it's not very U.S. based. It's sort of everywhere else based. So a lot of people in Amsterdam. I was on the phone this morning with a guy from Amsterdam. There's a lot of people in the Black Sea. So Tbilisi,
Hmm.
Georgia. There's a lot of Neo people there. That's a big Neo hotbed. There are surprisingly some folks in New York as well. So whereas we not really in LA though, weirdly. So I think some of it's
Yeah, I
geographic.
that's what it sounds like, and I'm trying to unravel it because I had this feeling, and I think that this is what we do, sort of as like haters, where we can be
Yeah.
closed, and I generally try to come to learn, but in the back of my mind, I'm thinking like, first it's Chinese, and I used to live in China, and I like know how this shit goes sometimes, like a few of the Neo and Tron and a few of these things, I kind of lump them into a group of like Chinese are being opportunists or something, and they've somehow deployed some capital to get people involved. And I haven't met a lot of people like you're, this is the reason why I wanted to talk to you actually, because I haven't met a lot of people when I go to like blockchain or crypto events, like
Yeah.
saying, fuck yeah, man, I just downloaded the Neo dev tools and I'm just having a blast. Like the future is looking bright, you know what I mean? And it's like
Yeah.
for every 1,000 people that I talk to that are into EOS or even Ethereum or something, there's, you know, one guy that's a NEO. So but at the same time, I'm wondering like, is NEO going to be a big deal? Are they going to grow like crazy, or are they going to get left in the dust? And I'm just trying to like unravel honestly and come to learn. So I'm like, I have an open ear to this shit. So like, what would you say are some of these
Yeah.
things that like people don't know about NEO that make it look like the future is bright for NEO?
Yeah, I'll tell you exactly. So the reason I went to the Black Sea, this was
Hmm.
sort of the no go for me on NEO. Where I wanted to sort of look the top guy in the eye
Hmm.
and ask the, some kind of fucked up questions. Like it
Hmm.
feels like EOS is kicking your ass, and it feels like you're coming out of the locker room at halftime down 3 touchdowns, and you kind of don't give a shit. And I kind of
Yeah.
basically said almost just like that. And what came back was, yeah,
Hmm.
we're not going to be as fast as EOS anytime soon. Which Guardian Circle, we don't care about that because it doesn't really affect our operation. We're not the gambling sites. It makes sense, right? You have to have the speed. For us and the way we use it, we
Yeah.
don't really need the speed. 15 seconds, 5 seconds, that's good enough for us. So he said basically we have to fix our basement, and by that he mean the Byzantine fault tolerance. They had an issue. That's very real. So they had an architectural flaw.
Yeah, I read about that a
That
little bit
Yeah,
today, and it was highly technical, but
yeah.
I saw a
So
code auditor post a report that said basically the way that BFT is set up in this blockchain is that it is not even feasible, and it makes it not scalable. And like,
yeah,
I don't believe any one thing, but it seemed like a pretty substantial report. Is high on Google. The guy seemed credible. And it was a code review. It wasn't like, hey, I'm drinking the Kool-Aid of this shit. Like it was just all code.
yeah. So they've admitted to me to my face that there was an issue, but
Hmm.
they're pissed at themselves about it, and
Hmm.
they're like, we're gonna fix that, and they have
Okay.
40 engineers, 40, working on their core code. 30
Hmm.
of them they had previously. 10 of them they just hired last month,
Hmm.
and some of them actually came out of EOS, or they
Yeah.
were EOS block producers. So they're trying to suck, do the brain suck on EOS a
I,
little bit.
I I would
Um,
so the way that I would explain that as an EOS guy, and I don't want this to
yeah,
be a debate actually. I want it to be us learning, because like I don't even feel like I'm qualified to debate actually. But what I've noticed is that a lot of EOS block producers, including myself, got butthurt because they all thought they were going to be in the top 21. And so it's really not hard. It's almost
yeah.
like, you know, it's like really easy because they're almost disgruntled in a way and willing to move to anywhere, or to be willing to take them at this point, you know.
Yeah.
Um, but I mean, it could be true, could be not. I mean, maybe they're really legit EOS people that are like, you know what, fuck EOS, I'm going to NEO. Maybe that's right. But there's one thing that you said is
So
that imagine a world where Guardium is growing, and it's in which I imagine it is, and it's just scaling like crazy, and everybody wants to use it. How can the blockchain scalability not be an issue for you guys?
the scalability is an issue. The speed is
Okay.
not. So as long as the
Okay.
transactions settle within 5 to 15 seconds, like we're totally good with that. That's not that will never affect us. The
Okay.
the scalability is an issue. So the state of NEO right now is they have some issues with the pipes in their basement, and they've admitted that. The sort
Yeah.
of second, third, and fourth story that they have, which they've built up over 2 years, is awesome. It's like a gleaming palace of amazing, which
Hmm.
EOS doesn't have yet. They have a very solid basement, but they don't have the first, second, and third story up yet. So
Okay.
it's that's the trade-off. So the question is, can EOS fix their basement? And they've got a ton of workers in there digging around right now, banging around the clock. Like I said, 40
Hmm.
guys or 40 people.
Yeah.
Sorry, I should say. Um,
Okay.
I don't know how many EOS has. I've heard it's as small as 4. And also, I want to say also, I'm a giant EOS fan. I'm a huge EOS hodler. I know a
Hmm.
lot of the EOS
Yeah.
people, and I think about going EOS some days. I mean, that does cross my mind, but
Yeah,
I
dude,
explore it
and we're
and
right
debate
there.
it
We're right
continuously.
there
So,
to support you when you do decide to come
oh, I know.
to. But no, I mean like, but I think that this is really important for people, because there's probably a lot of founders out there that are like, what chain do I use? And then they have to talk to guys like us to really get some insight into what they should choose. And so you as a founder already went down the path, which I commend you for, because it wasn't an easy choice. Like Ethereum kind of sucked and everybody knew it. And right at the time we were making your decision was when all those problems were really becoming more pronounced. And you made a decision, and that's great. But like, I'm curious about how locked in you feel, and what does that technology landscape look like? Like, how locked in are you into NEO? Like, is that a major, is it a major architectural decision for you to move to something else?
It's not at the moment. We're releasing new apps in January, so within a few weeks, it's going to be an issue if if we decide to switch tracks. Implementing, like I said, I have to have an experience where you just download Guardian Circle. Everything you need is in that app. I cannot build that in EOS. At least I don't know of a way to do it.
Okay.
I can,
like, what would
I
be
could
some
integrate
examples
to
for,
Fred's
I'm
wallet.
just really curious. Yeah.
Yeah, so what I would have to do, I mean, well, let me put it another way. So Fred has called me out on this and said, well, you can do it. And he's right, I can do it by, replicating everything that he worked very hard for with a team of like 10 engineers for like 3 months. Yes, if I had that
Sure.
enough time,
I want to understand like the high level problem, because I think that Fred may have a pony in the race there where it's like, yeah, just use my wallet, which is maybe the right thing, but
well, I dude, first of all, also I want to say I love Fred, and I think he has worked miracles with the Lynx wallet. And I actually think the most exciting thing happening in EOS is Lynx and Fred. I honestly believe that, like, because that's the browser for the internet, right? This new internet of coins and money that's been built. And so I think Fred's right at the center of it. And he's doing all the right things, and he should keep going the way he's going. I completely agree.
Okay,
Fred's,
so all
this is where Fred and I
ass
diverge.
kissing aside, what are the issues?
So
what
now,
are the issues that you're dealing with? Like
so
with EOS.
Here's where Fred and I
Okay.
Here's where Fred and I diverge. Let me go there first, because I know
Okay.
this is what you're all waiting for, is this part. So Fred basically says to me, hey, switch to EOS, and then make all the users of Guardian Circle also download EOS links. And every time you do a transaction, it does that thing where it goes out to links and confirm transaction, like the PayPal flow. You say yes, and it goes back to Guardian Circle. And his argument to me is that's better, and I don't think it's better. I completely disagree. I think that's completely confusing to my users. And also, he says that the bulk of app discovery or dApp discovery will occur via dApp stores embedded in the wallets, right? So that's Fred's thesis. To which I say, there's no evidence. That's not happening right now. I mean, people are downloading links because they're using BetDice, right? Not the other way around. They're not finding BetDice in links. So he might be right in the future, but right now that's not how it's happening today.
Yeah,
so,
I think that there may be a little bit of substance. I don't agree with the thesis. I just don't really have an opinion on it. But I think that it's because we're watching some patterns emerge with Meet.1. It is something that's emerging. Whether or not it's right, or whether or not that is the ultimate way to discover apps, I don't really know. I don't believe it. See, Fred is mentioning Meet.1, and that's kind of like the way they've evolved. But I think that like the Chinese markets are very different from here. Like they also have McDonald's that fucking delivers on a bike. You know what I mean? Like I think that what you're really speaking to is that what I'm hearing is that you're worried about the way that the payment infrastructure of your company's application would run. Is that your main concern?
My main concern is that Guardian Circle users aren't crypto people. The crypto Guardian has to be in the app in such a way that if they think of it as like points that they use, like frequent flyer miles, without really understanding it's crypto, that's fine. And also,
okay, I see
can't
what you
require
mean.
them to download a second
I
app.
think
That's
that
really
you
the biggest
could.
thing.
I think that you could abstract this in EOS. You would. So this is just my opinion. I think it doesn't. Honestly, just from what I'm hearing, and I maybe need to learn more. It sounds like you could very well use EOS, and I do think that you're right. I think that your users don't like a grandma who's and I've actually worked with the CDC. So what I learned is that people who are dying or in trouble, they do not give a fuck at all about anything other than staying alive. So you need to make that a really friction-free experience. And people that want to help other people, we don't want the barrier of crypto. I get a lot of hate because I ask people to donate EOS to the fires that happened here recently, and people were like, well, that's insensitive, or why would they care about that? But my full intention, if I get this EOS, which I do, I've actually gotten thousands of dollars for crypto donations. And what we do is we move it into cash and give it to them. They never know that crypto is there. And I don't think that your users will ever need to know about crypto unless they're speculators or investors or something, right?
Right. So
Okay.
there is, they can move the crypto in and out of their Guardian Circle app as they see fit, if they know what it
Mhm.
is. So,
Yeah. And I
but we
think you
should
have a
require
good
them to
use
kind of understand
case.
that.
I think you have a good use case for it being transacted in the wallet. I don't agree with some of the assertions. Like Fred has the assertion, and I don't want to misrepresent it, but it sounded like, basically wallet has to be external to the app. But I'm finding, like for me, I know of a few cases where
Yes.
I think that there are exceptions, even though it might be true. It might be true 99% of the time, but there are actual great use cases. Like, did you see that product, the Credo and Bitbounce? I thought that their integration of the wallet that allowed you to buy Credo directly in there with a fiat on ramp was brilliant, because you log into their account, which is a web app. You don't have to manage any bullshit wallet or care about keys or anything like that. You go fiat in, it's just a little credit in the system. And a lot of people will argue, well, that's not really crypto. And you're right, it's not, but it's using crypto in the background, and you're putting your trust into those people, and they do have an integrated wallet that actually makes sense, I think, right? So
Yeah.
um anyways, well, let's move on to some other topics, because like what does the future hold for Neo? Like, what is like something that you're really excited about? And I don't want to keep steering the conversation of why aren't you using EOS too. I think it's a little unfair. So
Yeah, no, I appreciate that.
mm,
So, the future of Neo is really the next decentralized exchange connected to the Neon wallets, and then the fiat on and off ramps for NEP5 tokens and the
mm,
APIs that all these things will have. So,
mm,
uh, and really, the city of Zion is really the core of Neo, which is not
mm,
really Neo corporate. And more
mm.
city of Zion is kind of driving, wagging the dog, and to the point where Neo's kind of letting them do it, because City of Zion has just got such a giant pile of developers working on this thing that
uh
they're encouraging it, and they're finally
okay,
saying, okay,
so
great, you
so
guys run with it.
So short detour, because I want to get back to that actually. I want to answer Jared's question about NEO and Chinese government. I think that this is very
Yeah,
interesting, and here's why. Because in my opinion, a lot of things that China does, and keep in mind, like I'm bilingual, I speak Chinese, I lived in China. I think there's a lot of really great things about the Chinese people and government and everything, right? But like it is a lot of things they do, like the Great Wall, a lot of censorship, banning of tokens. It's really not in line, in my opinion, with the sentiment of crypto people, right? And so what would be your
yeah.
comment there?
My comment is you're right, comma. However, Da
Mm-hmm,
Hongfei, who is the CEO of Neo Corporate, has spent an awful lot of time. He's connected at the party level to a lot of
mm-hmm,
higher ups in the Chinese government, and he has successfully um, convinced a lot of them to sort of take a hands-off approach to what they're doing with Neo, if he,
mm-hmm,
if not get behind it. So we don't know all the details of what they've all talked about in closed rooms, but we are reasonably confident that the Hongfei's got the government in, not eating out of the palm of his hand, but he has a relationship with them, and he's very cognizant
mm-hmm.
of nurturing that relationship in an ambassadorial fashion, and he's doing well at it. Whether that will
And
continue in the
and
future is anyone's
is
guess, but
is that substantiated with like real officials in like high ranks of the government, or is it kind of like a speculative thing? Because one thing I know about living in China is that
yeah,
everybody's cousin and grandma is part of the party. They're
yeah.
literally all part of some political party, right? And so they're all part of the Communist Party, even though it's not even truly communist. And so is it like one of those things, or does he like substantially have like real high ranking officials that are backing him?
So the consensus is the second, the second one you said. It doesn't
Uh-huh.
appear to be bullshit. There's no way we can know for sure. Look, we're
Okay.
Americans. We're eyeballing the
Yeah.
situation. We're talking to a
Mhm.
lot of people, and
Yeah.
the consensus amongst a lot of folks, including the press, is that it's legit, and Dahongfei does have some pull.
I
Whether
see.
look,
Okay.
we don't. There's no way we can know for sure. So it
Okay.
looks good, but we don't know that for sure.
And so that goes to one other question, which is if like, do you think that there's a concern or that might affect the project? Because I know that they just again released that cryptocurrencies are okay in China, and I don't really know exactly what that. I haven't read the report yet, but did that affect
Yeah.
NEO in any way? Is that positive? Because I have this theory that part of the activity went behind closed doors with NEO when the government started cracking down. And my guess is that there's some correlation between the loss of activity and the government cracking down. And maybe they either went in
Well,
secret or they just
we went in
stopped or
secret.
something. Yeah.
So
Okay.
the speculation for a while has been that China, part of what NEO does is that it has a very strong identity model. That's one of the
Hmm.
core things built into it. So it's perfectly suited for the states to take it over in some fashion or co-own it and say, everybody uses this cryptocurrency in China. NEO is like the official crypto that we recognize. All token sales will be on it. There's some speculation that that will happen because it's
Hmm.
so well suited for that. It suits our needs, but it also suits their needs. So there's risk on the EOS side of the fence too.
Yep.
There's rumors that the SEC is investigating them and lots of people in that company.
Hmm.
And whether that's true or not, I don't know. But we all hear the same rumors.
I've heard the same thing. Yeah.
So we just that I've also heard that they use MongoDB as their front end for transaction processing, and MongoDB is known to not scale well when it gets to massive scale. So that could be a bomb in the center of EOS that will go off once it reaches sufficient scale, and we don't know. So
Hmm.
I kind of look. There's risk in either direction. Like there's no
Yeah, for
perfect
sure.
awesome choice, right?
Absolutely.
So I kind of looked
Um,
at Neo and went, yeah, there's some bombs, but it's the least of bombs and the most
okay.
features
So,
that we
but
need.
you're still hardcore, like, I'm just gonna run with it. That's your
At
view
the
now.
moment, the decision is to continue down the direction we are going.
Okay, cool, cool.
I
And then
swear
do
to
you want
God,
to
though, I
speak, there's a
reevaluate
question
this.
about the, uh,
I reevaluate this like
yeah,
weekly.
I think
Like
for,
Chris and I debate it weekly. So,
I actually really commend you. Like, I'm really thankful for a guy like you because this is actually my window into, um, learning about Neo, and I trust you, and you're like in my network, and I can learn about Neo where I might not, no offense to Chinese, it's not because they're Chinese, it's just they're not in my network, and I might not listen to what they have to say. And I know that you're a thoughtful guy, like you actually engage and you know what you're talking about. So I think that for me, it's a really great way to look into what's going on with Neo. There's another question that jumped in here from Fred, and he said he wanted us to talk about the identity model, which I don't know a lot about in Neo, but if you want to speak to that, feel
yeah.
free.
I actually, this is not something I'm strong on speaking about. I know it's in there,
Okay.
and I know it basically makes it so that you have to transact with a verified identity as
Yeah.
opposed to being pseudo anonymous like it is in kind of
Mhm.
every the rest of crypto. I don't know a
Yeah.
lot much. I don't know a lot about that more than that. Other
Hmm.
than it's suitable for a authoritarian government to crack down with and use. So
Okay.
that much I know. So
Okay.
which is
All right. Cool.
that's a bad thing in some ways, but it's a good thing if you're dealing with emergencies and you have to be you want to verify that an EMT is coming and the person is really who they say they are and stuff like that. There's for emergencies we kind
Yeah.
of like to operate in an authoritarian
How are you
fashion. So
currently doing that right now? Like like if I'm sick and, how do I know that this person is qualified or something like that? Like, how do you guys solve that
we
problem?
we actually don't solve that problem right now.
Okay.
So
I think it's probably
we want
smart
to
not
solve
to.
it.
I mean,
Yeah, the problem is if we touch it, we own it, and
yeah.
in the sense that if we guarantee that these are all EMTs and one of them
Hmm.
isn't for whatever reason, then we're hugely liable. So I want
Yeah,
to
and
do
it
it.
might
Like
not
that's
matter,
my
right?
yeah. It might not
Because
matter. It doesn't for a lot
if
of
you're
things. It
in
doesn't
need
matter.
and somebody can need, because I was looking at this, it reminds me a little bit of this project that was entered in the EOS competition. It was doing last mile shipping fulfillment, and I thought it was really interesting because when you get into certain areas and you need like a medicine to get from the last portion of that shipping destination, you don't care at all who brings the medicine. A guy could roll in there with one leg
Right.
with crutches and be like, not all there or whatever. for lack of a better term, and you don't care because you got your medicine. It doesn't matter how qualified you are in certain places. Like if somebody's just there to hold your hand while you die, maybe like it's probably better than nothing, you know. And so that's why I think that it seems like a concern that you wouldn't need to actually care about. Like maybe in really highly developed countries, it might be an issue I could see, but not in emergent economies, right?
Yeah. Yeah, I like to say the way I put it is in an
Okay, well,
emergency, your permissions profile changes instantly and drastically. So and there's almost nothing else like that.
yeah, it does. Yeah, Uber drivers are not all there from Fred, and that's really true. Um, okay, well, I do appreciate your time, man. Like, I always like to end by asking people just general questions about market insights. It doesn't have to be about prices. I know that you're a thoughtful guy and that you're spending a lot of time in the crypto markets, and I always like to ask people, what kind of insight do you think you have? It doesn't have to be related to anything that we just talked about, like something you would want to share with people and kind of get the word out. And sorry to put you on the spot.
I mean, I think the only thing I'd like to put the word out about, well, I guess two things. One, the market sucks right now, and a lot of people are relatively new, and by relatively new, I mean like the last year, right? So,
Yeah.
anytime I've been through something like this, the pattern has been it's great, awesome new thing. Like the internet was like this, awesome new thing, awesome new thing. Oh, it's all bullshit, it's all bullshit, it's all bullshit, and then it goes down to zero, and everybody goes, yeah, it
Hmm.
was bullshit. See,
Yeah.
it's all back to zero. But right here is the
Hmm.
best place in history to be, because right here is where Google
Hmm.
and Facebook and LinkedIn and a lot, the best companies, the biggest companies are formed here, and then the trend line goes like this, and it goes up to the moon, and it's
Hmm.
really in that little moment right there, which is where we are right now in crypto. Don't lose faith. It's not. It's everything that's happened before is like a warm up band. Like the Rolling Stones
Hmm.
have yet to take the stage with the Beatles.
Yeah.
So
Okay.
it's still
Great.
coming. Don't lose faith. And then the other thing
I
is
love that.
there's a new movie called Trust Machine, which I know you know about, that
I
premieres at
do.
the. If you're in
Yes.
Santa Monica, come to the Lemley and see it. I think it's got like a 2 week run, but it premieres on Friday night. So
Yeah. Where is that, by the way? I know it's in Santa Monica. I know it's familiar. Is that just right there on the beach? Is that the AMC there
it's
or?
sort of by the promenade. So it's on Second. It's on Second. So it's
Okay.
like one over. It's right across the
Uh-huh.
street, I think, from Sugarfish, if you know where that is.
And
So the
you're in
Lemley's like
that
right
film,
there.
right?
I am in that film, yes. And
Okay,
it's
great.
Alex Winter's the director. There's like 8 people he interviews, and I'm one of them. So
Yeah, there's a group of people that I know are going to go watch it at 7 p.m. I think on Saturday, and I might join that group. So if anybody else wants to go, just let me know. I want to bring some people, and I think it'll be pretty fun. I'm looking forward to seeing it. But anyways, yeah, thanks for your time, dude. I really appreciate it, and
oh,
let maybe
my
just let
pleasure.
people know where they can reach out to you. Yeah, thanks, dude. This has been fun. So
Yeah, thank you, man. I really appreciate you inviting me on. Thanks, Kurt.
yeah, yeah. Okay, take it easy, dude.
Thank you, man.